Being a high-value man has very little to do with the brand of watch on your wrist, the logo on your steering wheel, or the labels on your clothing. Those are the illusions of wealth, sold to weak men to keep them broke. True high value is defined by autonomy. It is defined by freedom. It is defined by having absolute control over your time, your resources, and your future. And the foundation of that freedom is financial mastery. Over the next 2 hours, we are going to dismantle the lies you have been fed about money. We are not going to talk about clipping coupons or adopting a scarcity mindset. We are going to talk about self-motivated finance. We are going to build an unshakable financial fortress that begins in your mind and ends in your bank account. This journey requires brutal honesty. It requires you to look in the mirror and take radical accountability for your current financial state. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to hand you $1 million. If you want a life of abundance, you must build the discipline to create it yourself. Adjust your posture, clear your mind, and let us begin. There are 2 types of men in this world: producers and consumers. The modern economic machine is entirely dependent on the consumer. From the moment you wake up and check your smartphone, to the moment you go to sleep, billions of dollars are spent on algorithms and advertisements designed to do one thing: separate you from your money. Society conditions you to believe that every time you feel stressed, bored, or inadequate, the solution is to buy something. The consumer works 40 hours a week to earn a paycheck, only to immediately transfer that wealth to the landlord, the car dealership, the credit card company, and the restaurants. He works endlessly to enrich other people. He is a battery, powering the wealth of the producers. At the end of the month, the consumer is left with nothing but stress and the anxiety of having to do it all over again. He has no capital. He has no leverage. He is a slave to his lifestyle. The high-value man refuses to play this game. He is a producer. A producer understands that money is not meant to be immediately destroyed through consumption. It is meant to be deployed as a tool. When a producer earns $1, he does not ask, "What can this buy me right now?" Instead, he asks, "How can I use this dollar to buy back my freedom?" Transitioning from a consumer to a producer is the most difficult psychological shift you will ever make. It requires self-motivation that borders on obsession. When your peers are financing new cars, they cannot afford to impress people they do not even like. You must have the quiet confidence to drive an older vehicle and invest the difference. When society tells you to upgrade your lifestyle because you got a raise, you must have the discipline to keep your expenses exactly where they are and buy assets instead. This is not about depriving yourself. It is about delayed gratification. It is about choosing a lifetime of absolute freedom over a fleeting moment of cheap dopamine. The self-motivated man does not need a boss to tell him to work hard, and he does not need an advertisement to tell him what is valuable. His motivation comes from a deep, burning desire to be the master of his own fate. To become a producer, you must audit your life. You must look at every single dollar leaving your account and ask yourself, is this building my empire, or am I building someone else's? Philosophy without action is just entertainment. It is time to execute. Your very first directive on the path to financial autonomy is the financial audit. You cannot conquer an enemy you cannot see. And right now, your expenses are operating in the shadows. Most men check their bank accounts with a sense of dread, hoping there is enough left to cover the bills. That is the behavior of a victim. A high-value man approaches his finances like a chief executive officer. Today, you are going to print out your last 90 days of bank and credit card statements. Get a physical copy and a red pen. You're going to go line by line. Every single transaction must be justified. You will immediately notice the financial bleed, the subscriptions you forgot about, the daily conveniences, the weekend bar tabs, the premium services that add zero actual value to your life. Take your red pen and cross out every expense that is rooted in ego, laziness, or mindless habit. This is not about living like a monk permanently. It is about stopping the hemorrhaging of your capital. If you are paying a car note that consumes 15% of your take-home pay just to impress people at a red light, you are bleeding. Sell the car. Buy something reliable in cash. Reclaim that monthly cash flow. When you strip away the ego, you will find your survival number. This is the absolute minimum amount of money you need to keep a roof over your head, the lights on, and basic food in your stomach. Memorize this number. When you know your survival number, fear disappears. You realize exactly how little you actually need to survive, which makes the next step possible. Now that we have stopped the bleeding, we must build the defense system. When you receive a paycheck, what is the first thing that happens? The government takes its taxes. The government pays itself first because it relies on your money to function. When the remaining money hits your account, what do? You pay the landlord, you pay the utility company, you pay the grocery store, and you pay the credit card company. You pay everyone else first. And then, at the end of the month, you try to save whatever is left. This is a mathematical guarantee for poverty. If you save what is left, you will always find an excuse to have nothing left. Parkinson's law states that expenses will always rise to match your income. If you make an extra $1,000 a month, you will subconsciously find a way to spend an extra $1,000 a month. The high-value man flips this equation. He obeys the absolute golden rule of wealth creation. Pay yourself first. Before a single bill is paid, before you buy groceries, before you spend a dime on entertainment, you must extract your capital. The moment you get paid, 10 to 20% of your income must immediately be routed into a separate account. Not an account you can access with a debit card on a Friday night. A completely separate, inconvenient account dedicated solely to your wealth building. You automate this process. You set up a direct deposit or an automatic transfer so that the money vanishes before you even see it. You do not rely on willpower. Willpower fails when you are tired. Systems do not fail. When you automate your wealth extraction, you are forcing yourself to live on the remaining 80% of your income. If you find that you cannot pay your basic bills on that 80%, you do not stop paying yourself. You fix the actual problem. You either have an income problem, meaning you need to acquire more valuable skills to earn more money, or you have a lifestyle problem, meaning your rent, your car, or your habits are too expensive, and you need to cut them immediately. Paying yourself first is the ultimate act of self-respect. It is you telling the world that your future freedom is more important than enriching another corporation today. That extracted capital is your army. Right now, your soldiers are sitting in a fortress, gathering strength. Soon, we are going to deploy them to the battlefield of investing, where they will capture prisoners and bring more money back to you. If your goal is absolute autonomy, you must ruthlessly identify and eliminate anything that controls you. And in the modern world, the ultimate mechanism of control is consumer debt. Debt is the opposite of wealth. If wealth is the accumulation of freedom, Debt is the accumulation of slavery. When you take out a loan for a depreciating asset, whether it is a credit card balance for a vacation, a massive car note, or financing for designer clothes, you are making a very specific, dangerous trade. You are trading your future time and labor for instant gratification today. Every time you swipe a credit card and do not pay the balance in full, you are signing a contract that says, "I agree to go to work next month, and the month after that, and the month after that, not for myself, but to enrich a banking institution." The high-value man understands that high-interest consumer debt is a tax on impatience. It is an emergency. If you are carrying credit card debt at 19, 20, or 25% interest, you are financially bleeding to death. You cannot outinvest a 20% interest rate. You cannot build a fortress while the foundation is on fire. To conquer debt, you must shift your mindset from passive acceptance to aggressive warfare. This is the enemy within your gates. There are two primary methods to attack this enemy. The first is the mathematical approach, often called the avalanche method. You list all your debts from the highest interest rate to the lowest. You pay the minimum on everything, and you take every spare dollar you found during your financial audit and hurl it at the debt with the highest interest rate. Once that is dead, you move to the next. This saves you the most money over time. The second method is the psychological approach, known as the snowball method. You list your debts from the smallest total balance to the largest. You ignore the interest rates. You attack the smallest debt first. Why? Because wealth building is psychological. When you completely eliminate that first small debt, you get a rush of dopamine. You get a victory. That victory fuels your discipline to attack the next debt, and the next, until the momentum becomes an unstoppable avalanche. Choose the method that keeps you motivated, but the execution must be flawless. During this phase, your ego must be locked away. You do not deserve a vacation. You do not deserve a new watch. You do not deserve to eat at expensive restaurants. You are in debt. You are in a state of financial emergency. The self-motivated man does not seek comfort when he is chained. He seeks the key, and the key is discipline. You must take the money you are now paying yourself first and use it as a weapon against this debt. You become a ghost to the consumer world. You work, you build your skills, you optimize your income, and you destroy your balances. There is a profound, life-altering psychological shift that happens the day your consumer debt hits zero. The weight of the world lifts off your shoulders. The bank no longer owns your future. Your income is finally your own. You have reset the board. You are no longer fighting from a deficit. You are finally at zero. And in the game of wealth, zero is the starting line. Now, we can begin to build the empire. With your debt destroyed and your capital securely extracted every month, you are now standing at the threshold of true wealth creation. You have cash. But cash, left alone, is a melting block of ice. Inflation will quietly erode its purchasing power year after year. To build an empire, your money cannot sleep. It must be sent out into the world to work. Albert Einstein famously said, "Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it." Until now, you have been paying it. You have experienced the destructive power of compound interest working against you through your debt. Now, we are going to reverse the polarity. We are going to make the math work for you. Most men completely misunderstand the stock market. They view it as a casino. They are constantly looking for the hot new stock, the secret cryptocurrency, or the day trading strategy that will make them a millionaire by Friday. That is the mindset of a gambler. A high-value man does not gamble with his freedom. True wealth creation is not thrilling. It is not a Hollywood movie. It is boring. It is methodical. It is the relentless execution of a proven strategy over a long period of time. Let me introduce you to the ultimate wealth-building machine, the Broad Market Index Fund. If you try to pick individual stocks, you are competing against Wall Street algorithms, insider information, and billionaire hedge funds. You will likely lose. But when you buy an index fund, specifically one that tracks the S&P 500, you are not trying to guess which individual company will win. You are buying a small, microscopic piece of the 500 largest, most profitable companies in the United States economy. You instantly become a partial owner of Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and hundreds of others when these massive corporations sell products. When they innovate, when they generate billions of dollars in profit, you get a cut. You are no longer just a consumer of these brands. You have crossed the line. You are now an owner. This is where compound interest takes over. Historically, the stock market has returned an average of 8 to 10% per year over the long term. If you just leave your money in a savings account, inflation eats it. If you put it in an index fund, it grows. But it does not just grow linearly. It compounds. Your money earns money. And then, the next year, the money that your money made makes more money. It is a snowball rolling down a very long hill, gathering size and speed until it becomes an unstoppable avalanche of capital. Consider this. If you take $500 a month, money you freed up by cutting the financial bleed and paying yourself first, and you invest it in an index fund every single month for 30 years, you will not just have the $180,000 you put in. Thanks to compound interest, you will have over $1 million. The secret ingredient here is not a genius-level IQ. It is not trying to perfectly time the market. The secret ingredient is simply time. Time and unbreakable consistency. Your directive for this phase is simple. Open a brokerage account. Vanguard, Fidelity, Charles Schwab, the specific institution does not matter as long as they offer low-cost index funds. Take the capital you are extracting from your paycheck and automatically route it into these funds every single month. Set it and forget it. You must also master your psychology. The market will go up and the market will go down. There will be recessions. There will be terrifying news headlines. Weak men panic and sell their investments at the bottom, locking in their losses. A high-value man does not react emotionally to red numbers on a screen. He understands that a market crash just means his favorite assets are on sale. He keeps buying. You are building a financial engine that operates entirely independently of your physical labor. Every dollar you invest is a tireless soldier that works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, never takes a vacation, and never asks for a raise. Your only job is to recruit as many soldiers as possible. Up until this point, we have focused on defense. We have built the fortress. We have audited your expenses, destroyed your debt, and established an automated system to invest your capital. But defense will only keep you from losing. If you want to win, and win big, you must play offense. There is a mathematical limit to frugality. You can only cut your expenses so much before you are living in a tent and eating rice. But there is absolutely no limit to your earning potential. If you want to accelerate your journey to financial freedom from 30 years down to 10, or even 5, you must drastically increase the amount of capital you are funneling into your wealth engine. To do that, you must understand a brutal truth about the modern economy. The marketplace does not care how hard you work. It only cares about the value you provide. The man breaking his back doing manual labor for 12 hours a day is working incredibly hard, but he is easily replaceable. Therefore, his income is capped. The man who writes a piece of software that streamlines operations for 10,000 businesses might only work 4 hours a day, but he provides massive, scalable value. Therefore, he becomes a millionaire. Your current income is a direct reflection of your current skill set. If you are not happy with your income, you must become more valuable. You must acquire high-income skills. A high-income skill is an ability that directly generates revenue, solves a complex problem, or operates at scale. It is a skill that allows you to detach your time from your money. When you work for an hourly wage, your income is limited by the 24 hours in a day. When you leverage a high-income skill, you are paid for the outcome you produce, regardless of how long it took you to produce it. What are these skills? They are the engines of the digital age: sales and closing. The ability to persuade another human being to hand over money for a product or service is the oldest and most lucrative skill on earth. If you can sell, you will never starve. Copywriting. This is sales in written form. It is the ability to write a landing page, an email, or an advertisement that convinces thousands of people to take action simultaneously. One good copywriter can generate millions of dollars in revenue from a single laptop. Software development, artificial intelligence, and data analysis. We live in a world built on code. The men who understand how to build and manipulate the digital infrastructure are the architects of the modern era, and they are compensated accordingly. Digital marketing and media buying. The attention of the consumer is the most valuable currency in the world. If you know how to capture attention through platforms like YouTube, Instagram, or Google, and direct that attention to a business, you hold the keys to the kingdom. Notice that none of these skills necessarily require a 4-year university degree. They require a Wi-Fi connection, immense focus, and the self-motivation to sit down and learn when everyone else is watching television. To develop a high-income skill, you must become a student again. But this time, the curriculum is chosen by you, and the grade is your bank account. Take the hours you freed up by cutting out mindless entertainment and dedicate them to mastery. Buy the books. Take the online courses. Find a mentor. Do not try to learn 5 things at once. Choose one high-income skill that aligns with your natural strengths. If you are analytical, learn to code. If you are charismatic, learn to sell. Commit to that single skill for the next 6 months. Practice it every single day. Offer your services for free at first, just to get the reps in and build a portfolio. Your directive for this phase is simple. Open a brokerage account. Vanguard, Fidelity, Charles Schwab, the specific institution does not matter as long as they offer low-cost index funds. Take the capital you are extracting from your paycheck and automatically route it into these funds every single month. Set it and forget it. You must also master your psychology. The market will go up and the market will go down. There will be recessions. There will be terrifying news headlines. Weak men panic and sell their investments at the bottom, locking in their losses. A high-value man does not react emotionally to red numbers on a screen. He understands that a market crash just means his favorite assets are on sale. He keeps buying. You are building a financial engine that operates entirely independently of your physical labor. Every dollar you invest is a tireless soldier that works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, never takes a vacation, and never asks for a raise. Your only job is to recruit as many soldiers as possible. Up until this point, we have focused on defense. We have built the fortress. We have audited your expenses, destroyed your debt, and established an automated system to invest your capital. But defense will only keep you from losing. If you want to win, and win big, you must play offense. There is a mathematical limit to frugality. You can only cut your expenses so much before you are living in a tent and eating rice. But there is absolutely no limit to your earning potential. If you want to accelerate your journey to financial freedom from 30 years down to 10, or even 5, you must drastically increase the amount of capital you are funneling into your wealth engine. To do that, you must understand a brutal truth about the modern economy. The marketplace does not care how hard you work. It only cares about the value you provide. The man breaking his back doing manual labor for 12 hours a day is working incredibly hard, but he is easily replaceable. Therefore, his income is capped. The man who writes a piece of software that streamlines operations for 10,000 businesses might only work 4 hours a day, but he provides massive, scalable value. Therefore, he becomes a millionaire. Your current income is a direct reflection of your current skill set. If you are not happy with your income, you must become more valuable. You must acquire high-income skills. A high-income skill is an ability that directly generates revenue, solves a complex problem, or operates at scale. It is a skill that allows you to detach your time from your money. When you work for an hourly wage, your income is limited by the 24 hours in a day. When you leverage a high-income skill, you are paid for the outcome you produce, regardless of how long it took you to produce it. What are these skills? They are the engines of the digital age: sales and closing. The ability to persuade another human being to hand over money for a product or service is the oldest and most lucrative skill on earth. If you can sell, you will never starve. Copywriting. This is sales in written form. It is the ability to write a landing page, an email, or an advertisement that convinces thousands of people to take action simultaneously. One good copywriter can generate millions of dollars in revenue from a single laptop. Software development, artificial intelligence, and data analysis. We live in a world built on code. The men who understand how to build and manipulate the digital infrastructure are the architects of the modern era, and they are compensated accordingly. Digital marketing and media buying. The attention of the consumer is the most valuable currency in the world. If you know how to capture attention through platforms like YouTube, Instagram, or Google, and direct that attention to a business, you hold the keys to the kingdom. Notice that none of these skills necessarily require a 4-year university degree. They require a Wi-Fi connection, immense focus, and the self-motivation to sit down and learn when everyone else is watching television. To develop a high-income skill, you must become a student again. But this time, the curriculum is chosen by you, and the grade is your bank account. Take the hours you freed up by cutting out mindless entertainment and dedicate them to mastery. Buy the books. Take the online courses. Find a mentor. Do not try to learn 5 things at once. Choose one high-income skill that aligns with your natural strengths. If you are analytical, learn to code. If you are charismatic, learn to sell. Commit to that single skill for the next 6 months. Practice it every single day. Offer your services for free at first, just to get the reps in and build a portfolio. Words transmit data, but tonality transmits power. You can speak the most intelligent, well-researched sentence in the world, but if your voice lacks resonance and authority, no one will believe you. In the psychology of communication, how you say something is infinitely more important than what you are saying. To speak smart, you must first develop what is known as the executive voice. Let us start with the most common and destructive vocal habit in the modern world: upspeak. Upspeak is the habit of raising the pitch of your voice at the end of a sentence, making a statement sound like a question. For example, saying, "I think we should launch the product on Tuesday," instead of, "I think we should launch the product on Tuesday." When you use upspeak, you are subconsciously signaling to the room that you are unsure of yourself. You are verbally asking for permission to exist and for validation of your ideas. It is an immediate trigger for submission. People will instinctively view you as a subordinate, no matter what your actual title is. To project absolute authority, you must master the downward inflection. When you finish a sentence, your pitch must drop. A downward inflection implies finality. It implies certainty. It tells the listener, this is not a debate. This is a fact. When a judge gives a ruling or when an executive issues a command, their voice naturally drops at the end of the sentence. Practice this immediately. Record your own voice reading a paragraph and force your pitch down at every period. It will feel unnatural at first, but to the listener, you will suddenly sound unshakable. The second component of the executive voice is resonance. Most people speak from their throat or their nasal cavity. This produces a thin, high-pitched voice that becomes shrill when they are stressed or excited. Shrill voices are grating and easily dismissed. A master communicator speaks from the diaphragm. Your chest is a natural acoustic chamber. When you breathe deeply into your stomach, rather than shallowly into your chest, you lower the physical center of gravity in your body. Your voice becomes richer, deeper, and more resonant. A resonant voice triggers a primal psychological response in humans. We naturally associate deep, relaxed tonality with physical size, calmness, and leadership. Finally, control your pacing. Nervous people talk fast. They rush through their words because, subconsciously, they do not believe their ideas are valuable enough to hold people's attention. They are trying to get the information out before they are interrupted. Powerful people speak slowly. They do not rush because they know the room will wait for them. When you slow your pacing by just 20%, you achieve two things. First, you give your brain a fraction of a second more to calculate your next word, completely eliminating the need for filler words. Second, you force the audience to lean in and adjust to your rhythm, rather than you adjusting to theirs. You must view your voice as a physical instrument. Tune it. Deepen your breath, drop your inflection, and slow your pace. When you speak from a place of physical and vocal grounding, your words will carry the weight of gravity. We are now moving beyond the mechanics of speech and into the realm of psychological dominance. To be the most powerful communicator in any room, you must master a concept known as frame control. In social psychology, a frame is the underlying meaning, context, or assumption of an interaction. Whenever two human beings communicate, their frames collide. The person with the stronger, more rigid frame absorbs the weaker frame, and their reality becomes the accepted reality of the conversation. He who controls the frame controls the outcome. Let us look at a common example: the job interview. The standard frame of a job interview is that the employer is the prize, and the applicant is the beggar. The employer asks the questions, and the applicant scrambles to prove their worth. If you accept this frame, you are instantly operating from a position of weakness. You will speak faster, you will over-explain yourself, and you will agree with whatever the interviewer says. A master communicator enters that exact same room and subtly imposes a different frame. They impose the prize frame. They view themselves as an asset of immense value, and they are interviewing the company to see if it is worthy of their time and talent. They do not act arrogant, but their frame dictates their behavior. They ask sharp questions. They evaluate the interviewer's responses. Because they hold this frame so strongly, the interviewer subconsciously feels the shift in power. Suddenly, the company is trying to sell itself to the applicant. The frame has been hijacked.
There is a famous saying, shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. The first generation works incredibly hard and builds the wealth. The second generation grows up with the wealth and manages it. The third generation grows up in absolute comfort, becomes weak, and squanders it all. If you leave your children millions of dollars without leaving them the discipline to manage it, you are not giving them a gift. You are handing them a loaded weapon. Your legacy planning must include education. You must teach your children the audit. You must teach them to pay themselves first. You must teach them the difference between a consumer and a producer. You are the patriarch of your bloodline. The financial trauma, the poverty, and the struggle of your family's past ends with you. From this day forward, your family operates like a corporation. When you buy a piece of real estate, you are buying a physical, finite resource that every human being needs: shelter. Unlike a stock, which can technically go to zero, land and buildings have intrinsic value. When you rent that property to a tenant, they are providing you with monthly cash flow. They are paying your mortgage, paying your taxes, and putting a profit in your pocket every single month. They are buying the asset for you. But the true magic is leverage. If you have $20,000, you can buy $20,000 worth of index funds. But in real estate, that same $20,000 can be a down payment on a $100,000 property. You control a 6-figure asset with only a 5-figure investment. If that property goes up in value by just 5%, you haven't made 5% on your $20,000, you have made 25%. You have amplified your wealth building speed through the strategic use of debt. However, a high-value man does not rush into real estate blindly. You do not buy a home to live in and call it an investment. Your primary residence is a liability. It takes money out of your pocket every month. An investment property puts money into your pocket. You must approach real estate with the same cold, analytical discipline as your financial audit. You look for value-add opportunities. Properties that are undervalued, poorly managed, or in need of cosmetic repair. You use your high-income skills to generate the down payment, you use the bank's money to buy the asset, and you use the tenant's money to pay it off. This is how you build a legacy asset. A portfolio of paid-off real estate is a self-sustaining machine that will provide for you and your family for generations. It is the ultimate hedge against inflation and the ultimate symbol of a man who has mastered the physical world. One conversation with a man who is 10 steps ahead of you can save you 10 years of mistakes. One introduction to the right partner can collapse your timeline to wealth by a decade. Your network is your early warning system, your research department, and your support structure. If you want to be a lion, you must stop running with sheep. Surround yourself with men who talk about ideas, assets, and legacy. The environment you choose will dictate the future you inhabit. The single largest expense you will ever pay in your lifetime is not your mortgage. It is not your children's education. It is not your cars or your luxury vacations. The single largest expense you will ever face is taxes. Most men accept this as an unavoidable reality. They look at their pay stub, see that 30 or 40% of their labor has been confiscated before they even touch it, and they shrug. They complain about it, but they do nothing. A high-value man does not complain. He studies the rules of the game. And the ultimate rulebook of the global economy is the tax code. Society tells you that wealthy people dodge taxes. This is a poverty mindset. Tax evasion is illegal, and it is a fool's game. Tax optimization, however, is not only legal, it is exactly what the government wants you to do. You must understand that the tax code is not just a mechanism for the government to take your money. It is a map of incentives. The government uses the tax code to reward people who do what the government wants done. The government wants affordable housing, so it provides massive tax breaks to real estate investors. The government wants innovation and jobs, so it provides massive tax breaks to business owners. If you are a W-2 employee, you are not doing what the government is incentivizing, so you pay the highest tax rate possible. You earn, you are taxed, and you try to live on what is left. You have heard the saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. In the world of finance, this is not just a cliché, it is a mathematical law. If your inner circle consists of men who complain about their bosses, spend their weekends drinking to forget their problems, and view wealth as luck, you will eventually adopt their poverty mindset. You will subconsciously lower your standards to fit in. You will stay small because it is comfortable. A high-value man ruthlessly audits his social circle with the same intensity as his bank statement. If a relationship is not providing growth, challenge, or high-level information, it is a liability. Building a high-value network is about proximity to power. Information is the most valuable currency in the world, and the best information never makes it to the news or the internet. It stays within closed rooms, shared between men of high character and high competence. When you are in the right rooms, you hear about investment opportunities before they happen. You learn about high-income skills before they go mainstream. You gain access to deal flow that the general public doesn't even know exists. But how do you enter these rooms? You do not enter by asking for favors. You enter by providing value. Networking is not taking, it is trading. To attract high-value men, you must first become a man of value yourself. You must lead with your competence. If you are a master of sales, offer your skills to a real estate mogul who needs help moving properties. If you are a master of code, help a tech founder optimize his systems. Stop hanging out at bars and start hanging out at high-end seminars, charity events, and private masterminds. Pay for the expensive seat. The cost of a $5,000 ticket to a high-level conference is not an expense, it is a filter. It filters out the tire kickers and the dreamers, and puts you in a room with the doers. You must become invisible. True wealth is quiet. Loud money is usually insecure money. The man driving the 10-year-old Toyota with $1 million in his brokerage account has more power than the man driving the leased Ferrari with a maxed-out credit card. Wealth protection also means protecting your assets from external threats. As you grow, you become a target. You must learn about legal protection, tax optimization, and insurance. You must understand how to move your money into structures that shield it from unnecessary taxes and frivolous lawsuits. In the game of wealth, it is not about how much you make, it is about how much you keep. Discipline is the only thing that will protect you from the silent killer of lifestyle creep. Every time you receive a windfall, a bonus, a successful product launch, or a high-paying client, you must follow the rule. Invest 70% of the increase, and only then can you consider enjoying the remaining 30%. You are building for a version of yourself that exists 10, 20, and 30 years from now. Do not rob that man of his freedom just so you can look important to strangers today. Protect the wealth, respect the process, stay hungry, stay humble, and keep the gap wide. Up until now, we have treated debt as a parasite, an enemy to be destroyed. And for 99% of men, it is. But as you transition into the upper echelons of wealth, you must learn the difference between consumer debt and strategic debt. Consumer debt is used to buy things that lose value. Strategic debt is used to buy assets that pay for themselves. This is the secret of the world's wealthiest families. They do not just use their own money, they use other people's money. This is the power of real estate. Real estate is the preferred asset class of the high-value man for 3 reasons: cash flow, appreciation, and leverage.